Hey, welcome back to a new episode of Transformed and Renewed. I am your coach, Jerry, and I want to thank you for joining me this evening or morning, wherever you are streaming from. And today we have a great topic. But before we dive into it, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on your screen, and you can stay up to date with the latest content that we have, and you're not missing out. So be sure to click that right now so that way you do not forget. And if you do, a friendly reminder at the end. Okay. So today we are going to be talking about processed foods, ultra processed foods, because you have different types of processed foods. And so we're going to cover that in this video. And hopefully it's informational for you and it can help you with making some wise health decisions. So when it comes down to processed foods, and I will say that this will likely be a part two series, could be a multiple, more than that. But I figured that this is pretty lengthy because it is a lot to cover in a short time span. But I do want to share enough information with you when it comes to processed foods and even answering some questions about processed foods. So, just thinking about the definition of processed foods, what does it really mean? And when we look at the definition of processed food, it is essentially a food. Now, this can be a whole food or it could be a food that has undergone or underwent processing, or it has underwent, such as cutting or milling, drying, blanching. And these are just types of processing that can occur with different types of foods. But when we think about processed foods, again, these are foods that have been altered in some form or fashion. But typically, when we think about processed foods, we think about them in terms of foods that have been altered from the sense of an ingredient has been added to them. So we can take something such as apples, a whole apple. And so we take that whole apple, and without doing anything to it, it has just grown from the tree. It has not underwent any processing other than being grown. But if we take that same apple and we were to wash it, we were to clean it, even with a solution to clean it, well, it has underwent a processing method. And so we may not think of it as like, oh, we see the whole apple, but it because it has underwent or has been washed thoroughly, whether it's through water or through a vinegar solution or through any other food grade solution, it still has gone through some form of processing. But we take that same apple, okay, it's been washed, and let's say it goes through a cutting phase. Again, that's another processing step. But then we're going to take it a step further. We're going to add something to it. I don't know, sugar to preserve it in order to sell it as a snack, a dried snack. So we may take it through a dryer, add some sugar to it, not in that order, but those would essentially be the steps to dry it in addition to some other steps. This again, when you add the sugar to it, is a form of ultra processing because this is going to basically take the food through additional processing steps to where originally that whole apple contained nutrients. But now, once it has sugar added to it, those nutritional benefits may not be the same just because of the sugar being added to that environment, as well as how the sugar affects that apple overall. Now, the apple already has sugar, but when you add more sugar to it, that can alter it. And so, again, just a brief definition of processed, and then talking about ultra processed foods is basically including additional ingredients in addition to more processing steps with the food. So, we can think about chicken tenders or chicken nuggets. You may see on the back of a bag of chicken nuggets, just go into a grocery store, or it could be in your freezer. You could just look at the back of that bag. Now, you may start to feel some type of way if you feel some type of condemnation or judgment, and that is not my goal. But it is just to show you how much ingredients could be, or how many ingredients could be contained in just a bag of chicken nuggets or chicken tenders. And then you also have to think about, okay, what were the processing methods that these chicken nuggets had to go through? It's usually going to be multiple, meaning more than two, more than three, probably even more than five processing steps. Okay. Now, thinking about processing foods or just processed foods in general, we know that it is a big deal in the States because many companies love to market processed foods. You go down a cereal aisle, and what do you see? A ton of processed cereals. Okay. It is outrageous in terms of how many types of cereals, typically the same types of cereals, but they still contain a common ingredient in abundance, and that is added sugar. Okay. So when we think about that, this should start to stimulate our minds in terms of, never thought about, a cereal aisle or just the dry pantry or food aisle containing so many processed ingredients. But then you can also look in the freezer section, the cold or dairy section, or even just the refrigerated section, snack aisle, and you'll just start to see a bunch of processed foods. Again, you can go into your pantry and you will start to see that. Now, one thing that I think about when it comes to processed foods is this question. And I would say it very well relates to this topic. And that is when a person says, I have pretty much been working out and I have done that consistently, but for some reason, I do not understand why I am not losing this belly fat or this weight on me. And there can be a myriad of factors that can affect that situation in terms of a person not losing belly fat or midsection weight or just body fat, I would say. But one of the common ones is that people can have a stellar exercise regimen, but a still nutrition pattern. Okay. So stellar on one end when it comes to the exercise regimen, but still meaning that it's foul, it's horrible. It could use a lot more work in terms of the nutrition because you have many fitness influencers, a lot of people who say you should eat this way, you should eat that way. Typically, it's a lot of processed foods that I have observed. Now, I'm not going to say that that's the only thing, but at least from what I have observed, it's usually a lot of processed foods that many people would say, hey, you can get away with eating and you can still work out and you can still have this type of body. And I'm here to tell you from experience that is just not accurate. Okay. At some point in time, the body is going to realize, like, hey, we need something more that's going to be sustainable, as well as the chemical processes within your body. Because you have to realize your body has its manufacturing facility set up. There are a lot of things you don't know how the body operates. And when you disrupt that or operation from functioning correctly, then a lot of other things can go off track. And you may start to notice, well, why do my muscles feel kind of funny? Why do the inside of my chest feel sore? Why do I start to have joint pain? And I'm exercising, I'm stretching, but for some reason, I'm just having all these types of pain. Could go back to your nutrition. Nutrition is an area, especially when we talk about processed foods, that can have a silent but strong impact negatively in the diet. And so it is important that we become mindful about this area because the statistics do not lie. Year over year, people die, people are hospitalized because of their nutrition. They don't take time to improve this. And again, we see just even from a news article when we think about the FDA phasing out dyes in different types of foods such as flaming hot Cheetos, Skittles, and other snacks. Now, a person may say, well, as it relates to these processed foods, why are companies allowed to sell this or market this? And I would say that it could be a simple question, but it has multiple layers and multiple answers. One that I think of is that even if you said, hey, we don't want this in the food. Well, it's easier to say you don't want something, but it can be another thing when you continue to buy. Okay. The money still floats towards that product that you say, you know what, I can't stand that product, but I would take two of those because you have a BOGO deal. Okay. And again, that is the type of mentality that can enable different companies to continue to sell a lot of these processed foods that contain ingredients that we see are being phased out or banned, which have been banned in other countries for years. But you may wonder, well, why do companies do this again? It comes back to one, the consumer, as well as politics. And that is not a conspiracy theory. That is just truth. Because again, when you have a certain amount of money, people believe that, hey, that can just allow certain decisions to just be made without there being any consequences, as well as, hey, no harm, no foul. Okay. But again, as it comes to this information, I want us to really take, okay, what we receive, and I want us to apply that so that we can make, again, some well informed decisions about our health. But again, this article that we see, and this is actually on CNBC, and I'll briefly share it just so you can see it and you can just type it in, do a quick Google search. But again, this is an article as it relates to processed foods. And again, this is just talking about what we are talking about, processed foods. Is it really good for you? So let me go back. Let's see. There. There we go. Okay. So on the screen, we can see that the FDA phases out dyes, and these are related to food dyes, could also be food colors. And these are artificial dyes, artificial meaning that it's fake. It has no value. Okay. Just like you have an artificial plant or a fake plant in your home, which has no soil, no nutrients, these dyes are fake. Okay. They're in the food products to give color, to give imitation to a lot of these candies and snacks rather than the food product containing a natural color from another type of food, such as beets, which have a natural color. It's very bold, but a lot of these food products have natural color. But here we see that the natural dyes have been phased out. And again, these have been used for years, okay? Years. So think about all of the processed food that you have consumed, all of the snacks that you have consumed. And again, this is just a portion of the snacks or just some of the foods. This hasn't even gone into the entire grocery store. If I could just sum up the entire grocery store related to processed foods, it is probably at least over 80% as it relates to foods that are processed. You do have whole foods in different grocery stores, but even then, you also have to think, well, how much processing have those foods went through? And even if it looks like it's clean, you still have to double check the nutrition facts label because there's more to it than just seeing a food say, hey, we're organic. And I'll get into organic itself because everything that's organic is not necessarily healthy, meaning it's nutritious for your body. But again, I encourage you to check out this article. Again, it is titled FDA to phase out diets and flaming hot Cheetos and other snacks. So feel free to check it out because again, this is a good read. And it just kind of also shows like, hey, we have to, at least for you and I, have to really say, you know what, I want to take control over my diet, over my nutrition, and it's time for me to be educated. So when it comes to again this topic, we're going to do a part two where we're going to dive more into ultra processed foods and just talking about how it affects the human body. And next time, we also dive into some research so we can see from different articles how this processed foods affect the body. Is it good? Is it bad from a research standpoint? Okay, from a scientific standpoint that has underwent different peer reviews, different publications. So we're going to dive into that next time. But this time, like I said, just want to at least get us prepped for just about the idea of processed foods, and just even sharing again just some information with you that you can take away, saying, you know what, this is something good for me to think on. Okay, I appreciate that. So if you enjoy this information, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button in case you didn't, or you joined us midway through this session. That way you can stay up to date with the latest content that we're sharing with you. And also, if you enjoy this information but you're thinking, you know what, I need some more insight on what you're talking about, perhaps for my own self and my own goals. If that is you, then I encourage you to send me a direct message, or you can navigate to our website at robody.org in this description. You can just click on that link, take you to that page, and you will click on that yellow button in the center of your screen, encouraging you to reserve a session with me. You just follow the prompts on that screen, and that way we can establish a one-to-one consultation. This way I can work with you and we can really carve out some goals that can work well for you, and we can start seeing some results very soon. Okay. So again, not telling you anything that I haven't gone through. Trust me. I was 50 pounds heavier than I currently am now, and going through a process of just really fine tuning my diet, incorporated some basic principles, just helped me to get to where I am, as well as maintaining. Okay. If you have trouble maintaining, then again, consultation is going to be the best thing for you to do, because again, sometimes we think we can do, but we also need just some guidance to help us to get to where we're trying to go. So, again, that is you. Make sure you navigate to our website, set up a one-to-one consultation with myself, and we can get some results started. It can come in as little as 24 hours for you. But again, the more sustainable results are just going to come from just the consistency. Okay. And that is what I'm here to help you with: consistency. So, again, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and to this video. Share a comment, because I appreciate that as well. Okay. If you enjoy this, again, feel free to show us some love. Till next time, I will talk with you later.